And start recording. Okay. As usual, hi, here's the oh, no worries, Brady. Um, welcome to the bi-weekly SIG-Testing meeting. Sophia, if you want to introduce yourself, I think you are totally welcome to, either way.
Yeah, I'm quite new to the Kubernetes community project, so I think I would love any feedback or help from you guys for the pull requests I have done.
Cool. Is there a particular area that you're like interested in or getting started in?
Sorry?
Is there like a particular area of Kubernetes that you're like interested in looking into or getting started in?
Not really. At the moment, I just look for the available ones I think I can start with because, to be honest, it's quite big projects, so many subgroups. So I'm still trying to get my head around how the workflow works and what different groups focus on, and especially how different groups communicate with each other. For example, like this testing group, it probably hosts like infrastructure for test from other groups. So I'm still learning things, yeah.
Yeah. No, my understanding is we're kind of split in two areas, which is like there is a lot of stuff around the testing frameworks themselves. So like how some of the EDE testing and like the features for that are handled. And then also tooling and infra to make sure that the project still stays stable, running reliable, etc. That's stuff like the infra running the CI/CD, stuff for triage, etc. So we have a bunch of like varied products under or not products, projects under like SIG-Testing. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I welcome. Good to have you here.
Thank
Uh
you.
and I think you have the item on the agenda, so if you want to go ahead and like explain more about that, feel free.
Yeah, at the beginning, I thought it would be a simple one just to upgrade an image, but it turned out no. Yeah, and I think it was the image for the node performance testing, and basically there are two tests are very similar, the EP1 and the ES1. So they are using the programs from NASA for the performance benchmark, and the current image is the Debian stretch, which is very old. It's already an archive version, and I was thinking to upgrade like to one of the newest one, but it turned out I could not because I think it just the the test used the emulator for different architectures. So I think from booster, the emulator doesn't work with the benchmark code anymore. So I'm not sure what to do with this one at the moment because, yeah, we could upgrade it to booster. Still, it's one newer version than the current stretch image. But is it worth it? Because it's already itself already very old, and the current code, to be honest, doesn't work anymore because the the packages, the link to the package are already updated. So I think it would be a quite big thing if to change the benchmark programs we want to use for that case, I think. So it probably out of range of this ticket. So two options. One is to still upgrade it to the newer version, the booster version. And the second option to just to update the current code to get the old version still work. So people still can use it to follow what's happening or to build the image by themselves.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not like really familiar with like how exactly this image is used. I think your summary makes sense, but I do also see Ben joined the call. Hi. Um,
Hi. I think that the problem is I'm not actually sure who does know and is using this image and test. So like
That's what I was gonna ask, because like we don't
in
have ownership tagged for images.
in SIG testing, we have a long-standing effort to consolidate basically everything on the Agnost image, the first one in the test images folder. I don't know why we picked a name that doesn't have an obvious pronunciation. Um, but that first directory alphabetically in the test images folder, that is kind of like a Swiss Army knife of doing end-to-end testing. It has various utilities, but they're not, it doesn't have like performance testing. It has things like a trivial service to echo what you ping it so you can test network and you can use basically any of the way that you route traffic to a pod, that sort of thing. So we've gotten rid of a lot of these, or like maybe they still have sources but they're not being used in the UDB test anymore. I think this is only used in some like node
Yeah, it's
performance
used by
testing.
the notebook group, I think.
Yeah. So SIG node folks might have a stronger opinion on like what is the right workload for this. Um my like SIG testing hat is raising the question of like, I mean, why do we have this? Because there were a lot of oddball things that were added for end-to-end tests in the past. Like we have some super ancient version of Redis, and it doesn't, a lot of the tests, it didn't really seem like we needed it versus basically any networked workload. Um, it looks like we use this to like run TensorFlow. Uh,
No, there's a specific one for TensorFlow. These tools are not.
what it, these names are not embarrassing parallel. So I mean, but like, are we benchmarking the CPU or something? I mean, that doesn't really seem like the responsibility of Kubernetes. Like, we want to benchmark the software that we ship. We want to know how performant kubelet is, or we want to know how performant API server is and handles under loads. We have a bunch, there's a bunch of investment with that with like SIG scalability. I don't actually know why we would have something for trying to test the hardware.
Okay.
Like
So,
that seems sort of orthogonal to Kubernetes. Like like your whoever vendor is providing the VM or the bare metal should give you some idea how performant it is. But for like testing Kubernetes itself, I don't know why we would need this. So maybe someone in Node has more context, but I have a feeling this is just something that was added a long time ago that isn't necessarily in scope for the project. Let's look at the commit history.
I'm trying to double check as well, but I'm not sure if there are jobs currently using this.
I saw there is job using this.
Okay. Yeah, the only ones I found
So
are the image pushing ones, but no, I believe you that they're being used in
the
that case.
early stuff references CPU manager. Yeah, and it like I mean, for example, we don't even have a separate node perf dash anymore, as far as I know. So I'd be really curious if anybody is using the result of this because because we have CI jobs that run a lot of things that no one is actually using. And it's always a little hard to be certain before you delete it, but we have been paring that down too. And um I don't I like the original discussion references things like node perf dash, but as far as I know, we only have the perf dash, which is aimed at like cluster scalability and not at node, not at like kubelet performance. Um, so I think it's definitely an open question if like if this is a thing that we should continue to support at all.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds quite sensible. If it's not needed anymore, then
Yeah, it
probably.
might be like the fact that it's gone unmaintained this long. I'm looking at all the commits are like 4 and 5 years ago, and it was added around then. So that
Yeah.
suggests to me that we needed this for like some temporary. Someone was developing the CPU manager functionality and working on improving it, and that they're not active in that anymore, and that maybe no one is using this. And if that's the case, then it might actually be better to just delete it.
Yeah, I think I will check with the no group.
Yeah, I would
If
ask. There's a dedicated CI group. I think they mostly work on fixing broken tests, but we should ask Signode. We should ask around and see if we can find evidence anybody's using it, and then if we can find that, that might tell us who we should talk with about the trade-offs, because whoever's using this is who's actually going to be impacted by the trade-offs. Otherwise, from a SIG testing perspective, the trade-off to me is that we have way too many images, and this looks like another target to cull.
yeah, that makes sense.
We used to have like, I don't know, 50 of them in there, and that was fine when there were tons of people working on this. But now there's not that many people working on this. It's just not very sustainable. So we have actually been making an effort in the cluster end-to-end tests, not the node end-to-end tests and not the perf tests, but in the main cluster end-to-end tests, we've been getting closer and closer to just having one image that provides some general utilities for poking at pods. And just dropping all of the other images one by one. Right, so some of them we haven't removed the sources yet, but we have like removed them from the manifest. So if you there's a couple tracking issues, and you can look at the end-to-end tests have this mechanism for being able to mirror the images. There's maybe 10 or so left last time I checked. It's getting a lot closer. The biggest open question I think we have right now is there are some tests that have a database type workload using various things. We're considering moving that to use etcd. But I don't know if Node has a similar effort, and we're not gonna like force that. But if there's no interest, then I think we should drop it, and probably the other adjacent images, because this whole directory has had, as far as I can tell, the only patches that happened recently is just people making sure that it builds for other architectures. I don't there's not much happening with these.
Do you mean the images?
Yeah, under node perf.
I I'm not sure, but I just checked the dashboards for the CI jobs, and I saw there's some jobs still using these
Yeah,
images.
so the question is if anybody's even monitoring those jobs though.
Oh, okay.
Because we have one thing that we lack right now is like we don't have public analytics or anything like that. So we kind of have to just ask around and say like, hey, is anyone using this? And
Um,
sometimes we've dropped things and then reverted it later when we find out that people are actually using it.
we don't have public analytics, but I have the private analytics and can help check, I think.
The Yeah, the problem is that there's too many ways to access it since the data's all hosted publicly. We would need a
Yes.
bucket or something, and then even if you get that, you need to drill into the difference between like test grid is scraping this data versus. So like we have the perf dashboard for the scale testing, and we have test grid, and we have the triage dashboard, and
We have the job results themselves, I guess. So like, and I don't know, Crowd's analytics.
there's also are people responding to test grid alerts. Sometimes that sometimes we have some like there are jobs that are important that hopefully no one's viewing on a daily basis because we have alerting and because they really shouldn't break. Like I just broke one of those. There's a job that just like does building Kubernetes, so there's really no reason to be looking at that, and it's extremely rare that it would break. But I made some cleanup to the make clean logic, and it hit an edge case with that and broke the build. And then you got test grid alerts, and then people responded to it. So like that job would probably have analytics to the effect of like no one has looked at this in years. but
Yeah.
we still need it. So, yeah, that's really hard to tease out. And I think the most effective thing we found so far is basically just asking around.
No, that's entirely
Or
fair.
pointing to like, look, it's been failing for like a month and no one reacted, so can't find any issues about it. Don't see anybody working on it. It's been broken for a month. I'm gonna delete this now. That kind of thing.
But I think the images, it you cannot really test if people still need it, right? You need to remove it, then you will see.
So for the
Then
images, we trace it back to the test cases, and then we look at how the test cases are being used or migrate them, right? So it sounds like you know that there are some jobs running the test cases, so we haven't traced that far. And then the question is anybody using the output of those jobs?
okay, I
And if
see.
they're not, then we can probably drop the job and drop the test case and the image.
Either way, it sounds like it's a thing that needs to get kicked back to, or not kicked back to necessarily, but like brought up to SIG node in terms of like this job exists with these images. They are non-trivial to upgrade. Do we actually need these anymore? Do we clean them up?
Yeah. Well, also
Yep.
just like we don't really want as a community to be publishing images that aren't being patched. It's the kind of thing that people come poke us about, like, hey, there's CVs and all stuff. So that's another reason we have like we tried to make our images more minimal over the years. It turns out that can be fairly time consuming. So
Do we have like policy or tooling around that, by the way? Or do we just have like people manually update images when it's like this is a little bit old or probably has CVEs?
uh it depends on the image. So like for the Kubernetes base images, that's something that's a little bit more coordinated and we need to regularly build them for like Go patch releases and that sort of thing anyhow. For the E2E images, it's mostly driven by people working on it. We used to have image scanning, but it turns out that's a really expensive premium product.
Okay,
So it was
got
using kind
it.
of an unreasonable portion of our budget. So we dropped that. I mean, it's like using an unreasonable portion of budget and just driving like lots of busy work. Like if no one's complaining, then maybe we won't care. But we will get for things that are anybody is remotely interested in, we will get end users pinging us with like, hey, my org ran our compliance and you're failing. And even if we want to say, too bad, that's your problem, the volume of receiving those is itself a distraction. So it's easier to just try to cut down on them. So for most of our images, what one thing that we've done is minimize what could need patching. So like for the core Kubernetes images, we push towards we have some custom distro list stuff that's like only actually what we need in the image and nothing else, and then try to get rid of it. Um, try to get rid of everything else as much as possible. It's more or less the same for Agnost, but yeah, I don't think we can really enforce um, updates. The other thing is whoever bumps the image is like liable for okay, you might have broken CI. You're gonna need to revert that and fix it. That's pretty much how we take it. That's the only thing that I've really found sustainable. SIG-Testing is like for the tests, it's not necessarily as critical. So people ad hoc take on, I need this updated because I need new things, and then if you break it, you need to fix it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you for the tips. I think I will check with the people from the note subgroup and see what they say.
Yeah, that sounds great. Hopefully it's an easy answer.
I hope so, at least.
No, best of luck. Okay. Cool. I think that's the end of our agenda, unless there's anything else that folks want to say there. Is there anything else that anybody here wants to bring up as a topic, or should we call it good and get on with the rest of the Tuesday? Awesome. All right. Thanks y'all for joining. And as always, feel free to async, discuss in Slack if anything else comes up or whatnot. But good to have you here, Stia, and good to see everyone.
Thank you for your tip. Have a good day.
You too. Thanks,
See
Goldie.
y'all.
Bye.